By the way, I posted this chart back up at top. We had the massive liquidation move, the largest liquidation in history, and we bounced. Eventually, we broke this level. Posted this chart, laughed at, mocked, hated, but yet, oh gee, it was right. Again, told you we were going down to the 74,000 area, more likely down to 60 to 63,000. It's predicting a 50% plus haircut for Bitcoin, and I told you that we could reach the 200-week moving average all the way down. I've been talking about that 200-week moving average in my videos. Told you we were going to eventually bottom and get a rally, massive rally back up and get a right shoulder. The only thing I've gotten wrong, two things, is right here. I told you we were going to sell off. We did, but I told you I thought the sell-off was going to continue right there. We went sideways. My signals told me we were going to rally back up, and I told you we were going to rally back up to the 100-period moving average and up to this trend line. And again, I'm very flexible. I change with my indicators. I did tell you back over here, we can, before the rally ever started, we can go up to the low to mid 90,000 level, which we did right here to 94,000. But I also told you we could go up as high as this low right here to 97,000, just under 98,900, and test that level. And I told you late December and January 2nd and 3rd that that is what we are going to do and hit that 100-period moving average. I got this wrong right here, but I was right about the sell-off, but then I changed and I got the rally correct. The only other thing I got wrong was that my timing as far as S&P and NASDAQ went sideways, and I told you if that happened, it could take longer for Bitcoin. I told you Bitcoin could bottom by January if the S&P and NASDAQ went sideways as they did in 2021. And I've been saying this ever since October, if when Bitcoin peaked, that if the S&P and NASDAQ did go sideways, ended up diverging, which they did do. They just peaked. NASDAQ peaked back in October, a couple weeks after Bitcoin, but the S&P just peaked on January 28th last week. And I told you if that happens, if it goes sideways, then it might be deeper into the first quarter before Bitcoin bottoms out. Other than that, I've been 100% accurate on all of this, but absolutely amazing. Just quickly, I want to continue to point out my target levels here. I told you we were going to take out the 100-week moving average. I told you we bounced off of it, not reach the 50. A lot of people were saying, oh, we're going to get this bear market rally back up to the 200 period. And we stalled at the 100 period in the daily, not the 200. And I told you that we were not going to reach the 50-week, but we were going to break the 100, go down to the 200, and then rally back up to the 50-week moving average and the 200-day moving average. I told you this trend line right here is one of my target levels. These lows could be pointing to the next low. Over here from 2021, the midpoint that separates the two peaks in 2021, the two tops, this bounce that we got right here at the 100 week back then, that became resistance back after the bear market ended. That became resistance. We cleared it. It became support right here. And this is likely where we are headed. That is taking us down towards 60,000, 61,000 area. Now, if we go beyond it, you've got this 200 period moving average, 200 week moving average here in the weekly time frame. But I think you're going to bottom here somewhere around the 200 week or just above it there in the low 60 to 60,000, 60 to 63,000, I should say. Sorry about that, range. So that's what I think is going to happen. Let me just move this over so you can see it a little bit better here. And again, I marked this before the sell-off ever started, before we ever started selling off a few weeks ago on January 14th when we peaked, which I called the day of the lower high. I told you my signals turned bearish January 14th, 15th, 16th, and a few on the 17th. And oh gee, they were right yet again. The bars remained red. We had the topping signal on the week of the top. Bars turned red the very next week. I had other signals where the bars turned red the week of because I have good indicators. So again, I am going to be looking for a bottom, and I drew this out before we ever broke that 100 period moving average back when we were topping out. But I think you're going to bottom here. This trend line to me is very important. Then I think you rally back up to the 50 period, and you might even overthrow the 50 period like we did back in 2022. And get closer to that 200-week moving average, 200-day moving average in the daily time frame. I think we bounce off, again, told you over here, we bounced off the 100-week, still at the 100-day. Over here, I told you we're going to bounce here surrounding the 200-week or just above it or below it or at it, and you're going to move back to the 200-day, or the 50-week is very close to the 200-day moving average. So don't lose sight of these support levels. Again, maybe we breach this trend line. You can plow through it. Over here, we try to get above it, and then we pull back. Back over here, we hit it, and then we breached it slightly. So you can breach this level and still reach that 200-week moving average, which is currently at 58,000, which is what I've been telling you since the top, that we're going down to the 200-week moving average, and then we'll bounce and get the bear market rally. I told you the rally we have here is a miniature relief rally, very similar to what we had here at the 50-week right here. We had a miniature relief rally, and then you got the next leg down. Oh, gee, I was right. Then you got the bear market rally that was 46% that took you back above the 50. I think you're going to see something very similar to that. Bear market rallies can be very powerful, very deceptive. So just be aware of this trend line. We're closing in on it. Here we are, the 66,000 area. And again, this trend line is just below that. Please support the channel with the link directly below. Follow the link below to take you to a secured site. You can donate any amount you want. You know, Bitcoin is now down about 48%. I just updated the figure and we went even lower. Again, I predicted that we'd likely see a 50+% drop back at the top. If you caught that move or you got protected by selling Bitcoin near the top, as I've talked about, please consider supporting my channel. Bitcoin has now dropped 48%. And I told you what was going to happen before it happened. I've shared with you my amazing signals. If you find that helpful, please consider supporting my channel. I just put it all out there for free and just ask that you partner with me and step up to the plate and help out. Rather than sell you a bunch of junk you don't need or send you to exchanges. The exchanges would pay me a lot of money to send you there and do promotions to get you to go to their exchange. But I don't want to do that. You can figure that out for yourself. How do I know that that exchange isn't going to be the next one that goes under? How do I know that that exchange isn't going to get you all leveraged up to try to wipe you out? They do that. They do stuff like that. Now, I do use leverage, but I'm experienced. A lot of people do that, don't know what they're doing, and they end up getting wiped out. So rather than doing all that stuff, I just ask that you partner with me and support the channel. Follow the link below, take you to a secured site. You can donate any amount you want or make it a recurring donation. So please consider helping out today. Watch the video all the way through. I'll be talking about the wave counts. I'll be talking about the sequence counts. It's happening. Everything I told you that's going to happen has happened. I'm talking about this shortly, but I want to talk about the sequence counts because there's a very good chance we're going to see a bottom here in the next day, couple of days here, in the next maybe 4 or 5 days, be in the next day or two. We're in bar 8. I want to show you these sequence counts. As I make the video, Bitcoin continues to drop. It's down nearly 9%. Some of the segments in the video, at the beginning of the video, I made towards the end, but again, right now it's down 9%. So again, you're seeing this collapse as I predicted would happen. But look at the RSI. It's becoming very, very oversold. You're probably going to see a wave 3 bottom turn back up at some point on the RSI and eventually see a divergence develop. You're likely to see this happen where we get some kind of bottom, rebound back up, and maybe it's a bigger rebound. Maybe we go towards 80,000, but again, here I've marked it closer to the 74,000 area, but 74,000, 80,000, those are the levels you want to watch once we get the completion of crash wave 3. And then you want to be watching for a divergence that's likely going to mark the bottom at one of these trend lines. Now again, told you these trend lines could take us beyond that 60 to 60,000 level and take us closer to the 200-week moving average or even beyond it, as I've talked about in great length and detail. Again, I'm predicting a 50+% crash. 50% is 63%. That's my minimum objective target. If we do something like what we did previously in 22, you're going to drop about to 60,000. 61,000, somewhere in there, 52, 53%. We could drop more. But watch the 200-week moving averages at 58,000. So I've been talking about the 58,000 level to the low 60,000 range up to as high as 63,000 for a objective target. But we're very oversold. You're going to see a big rally. They're going to declare a bottom again. We'll get wave 4, and then you'll get the final flush out, and you'll get wave 5. Then you'll get the big rally. Maybe that's in late February. Maybe it drags out into March. You know, like this counter trend dragged out. I don't think it goes that long, but I think you're going to get some kind of rally. Maybe it goes more like this. Maybe it goes like where we bottom out and it goes more like that, of a kind of a sideways rather than a sharp V-shaped kind of recovery. And then you get the drop into March somewhere. So again, there's a couple different ways it can play out, but I'm just telling you, you're going to be looking for a bottom for wave 3. We are very oversold. You're likely going to get a bottom in the next couple days. It could happen today, it could happen tomorrow, or over the weekend, but in the next 5 days or so, you could see a bottom here, and maybe sooner rather than later, and eventually get that diversion. So do keep that in mind, and we could see diversions develop on the MACD, or even a divergence develop in the more recent price action for a multiple point divergence. We'll be watching to see how it unfolds, but everything's played out according to plan. Again, the head and shoulders back over here. All this was going to happen, and again, how many times have I said 80,000 is not the bottom? How many times? And that we're going down to take out 74,000. Oh, gee, here we are at 66,000, and the sell-off isn't even over. It's funny. All those people that kept telling us buy the dip all the way down, then told us 80,000 was the bottom, and I told you it was not. I told you with one thing what was certain was that 80,000 was not the bottom. I've warned you since the top, Bitcoin's going to crash 40 to 50%. Right now, Bitcoin is down 47.5%, might be 48% by now, since I predicted that it would drop 50 plus percent, 40 to 50 plus percent. And I told you exactly what I thought, that it would be probably more than 50%. So again, the sell-off probably isn't over, but it's coming to a conclusion. It's coming to a conclusion soon. Where are all those people that told us 80,000 was the bottom? They're strangely silent. Isn't that interesting? Telling us not to panic and don't worry. All those. This is a bear trap. Are you kidding me? These people are so delusional. We've dropped now nearly 50%, and they're trying to convince us that this is a bear trap. It's called a bear market. But I just wanted to quickly update you on, again, that this is crash wave 3, in my opinion, as I've said, and at some point you're going to get the intermediate wave 4. And that could be in the next few days, because we're getting bar 8. Listen to me, you can get bar 9 and still go lower. We did that over here. You got the bar 9, you still went lower. But eventually, with bar 8 or 9, or just under bar 8 or 9, you eventually get price exhaustion. The 13 count just gave us a bounce. Now we have a trend extension into a 9 count. We'll probably rally up and then get one final flush out move down to the 200-week moving average, currently around 58,000. And again, you can go just above it at 60 to 63,000, or you can go below it in the low 50,000 to mid 50,000 range. That's very possible. I've talked about that. Back to the 200 period. Ever since the top, I've talked about it. You got people telling us, oh, we're going to go make new highs now at 80,000 over here in this rally to 97,000, which I told you we were going to get rejection at the 100 period moving average, which I was right. And I told you we were going to get rejection and form a lower high underneath 98,900. We hit 97,900. I was absolutely 100% correct. But because I continue to remain bearish, my accurate calls continue to be dismissed. I'm attacked when I make them, and then when they play out, as we've seen, then it's crickets. Again, these people are strangely silent. Now, I want to talk about this because this is really important, because I am looking for a bottom for crash wave 3 and for intermediate wave 4 to begin in this larger primary wave 5. Now, right now, we've lost 8.80% for the session. Right now, we've recovered a little bit, and we're down 6.83%. But again, do we get a bottoming tail today? Do we get a bottoming tail tomorrow? Do we see a bottom with bar 8 or 9, or just after bar 8 or 9 in the next few days? You're likely going to see this bottom develop, and maybe it does today with bar 8, maybe it does tomorrow with bar 9, or shortly thereafter over the weekend. Possible. Just want to continue to make you aware of this sequence count, that we're up to bar 8. Bar 9 completes it. Usually bar 8 or 9 is a bottom, or just beyond that level a bottom. So you could see a bottom today, you could see a bottom tomorrow, or on into the next few days, into the weekend, or maybe early next week. And the next 4 or 5 days, you could see a bottom here, and it may be sooner rather than later. You may see it with bar 8 or 9 today or tomorrow. But listen carefully. Are you listening? Put your listening ears on and listen to me extremely carefully. Again, just because you get the bar 8 or 9 doesn't mean that's the bottom. You can go lower, as we saw there at 80,000. Now, sometimes accounts mark turning points spot on with bar 8 or 9, like we saw in August. We saw at the final exit point over here at 116,000. Sometimes they do it. Sometimes you get it and they go a little bit lower, go a little bit higher. Sometimes the counts don't complete. If we were to get a massive rally back up, we'd just get up to bar 8. Back up here, we only got up to bar 8 at the top. We never got bar 9 because we turned off of major resistance. Some of these counts have marked very important turning points. Times like the 13 count here, you got the 13 count, you went a little bit lower, and then you got the bottom. So again, we'll be watching. Now currently we have a 13 with a trend extension with a 9 developing. If you get the 9 bar, you got a pretty good shot. You're going to get the 9 bar because we've been in a free fall here, so you're very far away from the bar from 4 bars ago. You'd have to close above it to not get the 9 count. Every bar has to be below the bar from 4 bars ago. So you got a pretty good shot that tomorrow, on Friday, that you're going to complete this 9 count. And that's probably going to be associated with a wave 3, crash wave 3, intermediate wave 3 completing. Okay, so that's why I keep showing you this. And you're going to get a bounce probably to overhead resistance. There's 74, 75,000 there. Could go, if you get above that, then you have resistance from our previous low at 80,000. But you're going to get a bounce. This is going to complete at some point, and then you're going to get one more flush out move. Let me show you the wave count, keeping this bar 8 in mind. We'll see if bar 8 is low. It very well could be. It doesn't have to be, but bar 8 or 9 could possibly be a bottom or just under the wave 9. When I say just under, that doesn't mean, oh, it's just a, $2 under. It could drop like it did over here. Again, get a bigger drop. We got this low right here, try to get a bottoming tail, and then we got a bigger drop. We got another bottoming tail, got a significant drop. So again, just because you get the 9 count doesn't mean that's necessarily the bottom, but it could be, as I've shown you. The 8 or 9 bar often marks a top or bottom. Now, we are very, very oversold. We're very oversold. Bitcoin has reached a low of 66,500. Remember, I told you that we're going to take out 74,000. I told you we might bounce around 74,000 and then break it and then get a bigger rebound. We did bounce at 74,000 right here. We broke it. And I told you that go to the 70 to 74,000 area and then try to bounce, or even take out 70,000 and go somewhere into the high 60,000 range and then get a big bounce. And again, maybe we even go even lower because currently we're at 66,000. But again, never catch a falling knife. Just telling you, at some point, this crash wave 3 is going to come to a conclusion, and you're going to get the intermediate wave 4, followed by the wave 5. Again, I predicted this measured move pattern when we began to bounce at 80,000. I told you we were going to get a continuation of this. We had a rising wedge, as marked with the lower boundary in red there, or a bear flag. A bear flag pattern continuation of this. That's what it tells us. It measures down to 61,000. My target has been, since the top, a 50% plus crash, telling you Bitcoin's going to go down to 60 to 63,000. That's right in that range. The 200-week moving average is currently at 58,000. I told you, may even take out 60,000 and go down to the 200-week moving average of 58,000, or even take it out. Looking for a 50+% crash. So we'll see if wave 3 completes here or a little bit lower, and then we get some kind of rebound, and then we get the final flush out move down into these levels. But the measured move that I predicted, and again, warned you, we're going to the 100-period moving average, and we're going to get rejection. I talked about the shorting opportunities at the top, at the final exit point, and then again over here at the 100 period moving average. We got rejection at the 100 back then. That's why I talked about it back then. Talked about the resistance at the top. Not a recommendation that anybody buy or sell Bitcoin, but wouldn't it be nice if it was? Wouldn't it be nice if it was a recommendation to buy or sell Bitcoin? Because if it was, you would have closed your Bitcoin position at the top, went short, and we have now dropped over 47%. You would have caught most of that move, the final exit point, a good chunk of it, and then again here with the counter trend rally, we're down almost 32% from when I called the top. And again, I told you my signals turned bearish. We peaked on January 14th. My signals turned bearish at the 100 period moving average, which I predicted that's where we're going to get rejection. But below this trend line right here at 98,900, absolutely incredible calls. How many people can do that and tell you exactly where they think we're going? But if you have good indicators and you look at support and resistance, you can make some absolutely incredible calls. I have the guts to tell you what I think before it happens. Over 12% for the week. Right now it's currently down 11.89% at the moment. We're trying to get a little bit of a bounce, but again, just sell off, sell off, sell off. I warned you about this topping tail. And again, we can go down to this 200-week moving average, currently at 58,000. But as I've told you, we could bounce just above it. You have a trend line of support in the weekly time frame I've talked about there. Again, down here somewhere, I think you're going to see a bottom. Now here we've hit 66,000 so far. We're getting close to my objective target levels. I think you're going to try to form a bottom, get a bounce, and then get the final flush out move somewhere. And we could see, again, Bitcoin bottom before the stock market. That's what happened in 2022. Bitcoin found a bottom, rallied back up, sold off, got a higher low. The stock market got a lower low. It's very possible that we see Bitcoin bottom ahead of the stock market, but I'm looking for a bottom either in February or March. Seeing the AI bubble begin to pop on the NASDAQ, as I've been warning. And again, NASDAQ, I called a top on NASDAQ on October 29th. That peak is held. S&P just went just barely 1.20% higher than the NASDAQ, and they diverged just like what we had in 2022. I covered that in about 2 videos back or so. Again, we'll be watching for a bottom, and maybe we don't reach this level. Maybe we tag it, or maybe we just breach it. But again, you're going to see a bottom eventually develop, and then we're going to get the big bear market rally. But the measured move I talked about, and again, the Moon Boy is talking about, it's a double bottom from the April low at 74,000 as we blow right past. Bitcoin has now dropped 48% since I called the top, predicted a 50+% crash. We've now dropped 48%. We're near 48% since I called this lower high. And again, my signals turned bearish that day of that top 14th, 15th, 16th, and 17th. Talked about it at great length of detail. I predicted a rally into the 100-day moving average. We got it on the 14th. I was right. Since then, we've now dropped 32+% from that. So again, I believe you're in crash wave 3. I told you we might form a divergence here or just move to extremes like we did over here. And that's what's happened. We moved to new extremes on the RSI. We tried to form a divergence, but we just continue to drop. We've become very oversold on the RSI, very oversold. The MACD is moving to a new low. There's no divergence setting up there. So again, at some point, you may see some divergences show up, but we're moving to new extremes right now here on the RSI and the MACD. Now, again, I've talked about completing primary wave 4 over here. Laughed at, mocked, told what a dope I was, but oh gee, I was right. And now we've dropped 32% from that peak. Again, I've marked it here as a wave 1. There are a couple of different ways you can count this, so keep that in mind. But here as a intermediate wave 1, intermediate wave 2, and I believe we're in intermediate wave 3 that's likely going to come to a conclusion here. I've marked it as a 1, 2, 3, 4 with an extended 5th wave that maybe completes today, tomorrow, or in the next 5 days or so. Maybe sooner rather than later. But at some point, you're going to get this rally back up, maybe to 80,000 here, maybe to 75,000, as I've marked here, putting it just above that 75,000 area. Could go as high as this 80,000 area, but at some point, and we're probably not done dropping, probably going to see a bottom. You got a 9 count completing with our sequence counts, and at some point you're going to rally back up, and then you're going to get this final flush out move, and that'll likely complete a divergence on the RSI in the daily time frame and other indicators for Bitcoin. The RSI will likely form a bullish divergence. That is going to be one of the clues. But here we're in a free fall. I told you we were rallying with wave 2 that again, I'm going to go take out 80,000, and the next move down is going to be either crash wave 3 in primary wave 5, or it's going to be a crash wave C. And I've talked about both of those. And again, gee, I was right. Now it's funny when you're right. When you predict these things before they happen, everybody mocks and laughs at you. But when they happen, crickets go. Everybody goes silent. That attacked you. They're in a world of pain, having a 48% drop on Bitcoin. Well, again, you've been following along. You've captured most of that move and got out of Bitcoin near the top. Every bear market, every rally in a bear market is a bull trap, as I continue to say. And they continue to buy the dip that keeps on dipping. So here I've marked this count as a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Might be that this is an extended 3 here, and you get a bounce, and then a little bit lower, like I said, with the 9 count in the daily time frame. So again, a couple different ways you can count it here, but eventually you're going to get a bottom and get this intermediate wave 4. And that's probably going to bottom out in the next couple of days with the 9 count in the daily time frame. Now here's another way I can count it. And again, rather than the wave, intermediate wave 1 completing here, it could have completed over here. You get intermediate wave 2 after primary wave 4 finished. And then you get these minor waves, 1, 2, possibly 3, 4, and this could be a 5. And it could be a minute 1, 2, 3, you get a 4, and you get a 5, and that completes the 5 minor waves down, completing intermediate wave 3, and then you get this intermediate wave 4, and then you get the final flush out down here, possibly as low as the low to mid 50,000 range, maybe at the 200-week moving average of 58,000, or just above it, as I've said, at 60 to 63,000. Those are the areas we need to be looking for. We get a bottom above the 200-week, at the 200-week, or just below the 200-week moving averages. I've been talking about going and reaching that 200-week since the top. If this count plays out, again, you can get a bottom, you can get a little bounce, and then you can go a little bit lower. Maybe we get that 9 count as a bottom, or a couple of days after, maybe over into the weekend or early next week. But I think you're going to wrap up crash wave 3 here, up primary wave 5, and get your intermediate wave 4. This is intermediate wave 3, an extended wave down. So again, a couple of different ways I can count this, or even another way would be that this whole thing is 3, then we get the 4, and then we get the 5 down here somewhere, and this whole thing is the extended 3, where you get a 1, 2, maybe this whole thing being 3, a 4, and then a 5. We'll see. Again, a couple different ways to count it, but I like this count right here. I like the 1 and the 2 with the minor waves, and then this 3 and 4, and now we get these minute 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I think that has some real potential there before. So again, wouldn't be surprised to see this intermediate wave 3 come to a conclusion here within the next 5 days or so, possibly sooner rather than later. Again, make some amazing calls. I don't know the future. I'm looking at support and resistance. I'm looking at mathematically based indicators, and I'm telling you what I think. Most people don't do that. Most people predict things after they already happen. I predict things before they happen because I have good indicators. This is the 4-hour chart we're looking at, and I wanted to show you that. So again, I think this count has some real potential. As I've said, there are different ways you can count it. Again, posted this chart back up at the top and throughout the decline, laughed at, mocked. Again, I think you have a primary wave 1, primary wave 2, primary wave 3. I think this was primary wave 4. Predicted it would end at the 100 period moving average. It did. And then, again, the different ways I can count this primary wave 5, as I've shown you. Here I've got it marked as a 1, 2, 3. Then we get a 4, and then we get a 5 here. Some point we'll see a bottom, whether that's in February or whether that's in March. Here I've dragged it out a little bit more. Whether we go to get a rally to 74,000 or go up here to 80,000, again, remains to be seen. Either one is still possible, but eventually you're going to get this massive bear market rally that will take you back into the 90,000 range, or maybe into the 100,000 range possible. Back up to the levels that we just left at 97,900, and maybe even beyond it possible. Don't want to rule that out. Market rallies are powerful. But I do have a couple of different ways that I showed you that I could count this. But eventually, regardless of whichever way the count plays out, I think you're going to conclude intermediate wave 3 and get that intermediate wave 4. I'll be watching the 74, 75,000 area. I'll be watching the 80,000 area. Again, you're probably going to move back towards 74,000 and then get the final flush out. So listen to me carefully. Expect a powerful rally. We are becoming very, very oversold. I might even start, listen carefully, I might even start taking money off the table here as we're dropping 9%. I might start downsizing a little bit. Begin to pare back my position as it proves to be correct. But I am looking for a bottom. I am going to be taking profits down here. And again, with this move, I might convert some of my realized gains, unrealized gains, I should say, to realized gains. So keep that in mind. We are in a crash. We're going to get some kind of bounce, probably the final push down to get a divergence on the RSI in the daily time frame. I told you down here is where I'm looking. Down here is where I'm looking to start taking my profits, looking for a bottom. And again, I think this scenario is very likely right here. So I might take some money off of the table, then close it out with the next push down. But again, doing exactly what I said we were going to do. I have a massive gain, and so I might take some profits off of the table here, begin to lock in my gains as we get these crashes here. Is down 9%, and you've got an 8 bar today, you got a 9 bar tomorrow. Now here, this is our linear scaling, and again, I've been looking at these trend lines very closely, and again, these trend lines could mark a bottom. Maybe we go down to this trend line right now, possible. Just don't reach it and reach it with the next leg down, but you could get a big rally back up, and again, this takes us into late February. This could be dragged out into March, as I've said, and if you do, then you might take out the 200-week moving average. You might do it right here by the end of February. Right here, this trend line would take us down to the 56, 57,000 area. Our 200 week is at 58,000. So, and if we take longer to reach it, then maybe we go down to the low to mid 50,000 range. So again, going to be looking at these trend lines with the linear scaling. We've already broke the trend line with the log that I had here, excluding the shadow. Let me just show you. I had this trend line right here, excluding the shadow right there on other charts here. But again, now do we bounce? Again, we're hitting this area. Do we try to bounce around this level or break this level and then rebound back above it and get a bottoming tail or something? Now we're breaking it. We're dropping 9%. So log scaling trend line. Going to be looking at the channel here more so with this linear scaling, and currently right now down 9.42%. This count here would be a WXY in the blue, the W, the X, and then the Y. This would mean we would unfold in an ABC. I think that 5-leg push lower, though, has some real possibilities. I think it's more likely. But here we'd have an ABC that we're in crash wave C rather than crash wave 3. You get a big B back up, and then you get a C down. I think the 5-leg push down is starting to look like it's more likely. But this channel is very important to me, this linear channel, because this is where I think we're going to bottom here, maybe with wave C or 3, but I told you we can bottom at one of these trend lines. And again, if you exclude the shadow, this one right here, you're coming into that 56, 57,000 range towards that 200-week moving average. So again, wouldn't be surprised, but I think you're going to get a bounce, and then I think you're going to get another sell-off.